Today I want to share with you a little about dot punch background. Even though it appears to be simple, there are a few tricks that make it a little bit complicated. Um, Dot punch background can either look really good or it can look very amateurish. Having a sloppy dot punch background can really take away from the overall design of your scroll work. A good dot punch background can really add a lot of flair and give you, a nice finishing touch. It's very efficient, it's cost effective, and it's one of my favorite background treatments. I use a beading tool. I believe it's a number 10, or I also use a number 11 sometimes, depending on the design and the size. The basic technique is to put rows of dots next to each other so that they line up perfectly and create like a visual pattern in the background. That's obvious, but the less obvious thing is how it's done. What I always do is I start from the outside, work my way towards the middle of the design. It seems to give a better effect than actually punching from, let's say, the leaf shape and going towards the border. So the border, around the border, you're going to have a whole dot. And as you reach the leaf shape, sometimes you'll have like a half circle. I find that it's a good effect. It gives the illusion that the dots are actually going underneath the leaves, which gives it a little more dimensionality. The other way, it looks a little strange if you have the dots appearing in whole form on the outside shapes of the leaves and then disappearing under the border. It looks a little bit, strange. You can see that it goes pretty quickly. Once you get in a rhythm, dot punch background is, like I said, very efficient. It's something that, if a client doesn't have a large budget, dot punch background is perfect for giving a really classy, cool background treatment. You'll see in a lot of Japanese art, a lot of traditional like tsuba making, some very, very complicated patterns that can be achieved with dot punch background. You'll also see some, I would say, less well executed dot punch background that can really make your design look sloppy. It can really take away from your overall leaf design, your scroll work, if dot punch background isn't done correctly. If done correctly, it can really add flash and flare and give your design, really set it off and create dimensionality. The best way to achieve an even and standard pattern is to practice. Take a practice plate and fill it up with dot punch. And focus on not overlapping the dots, which is the key to a good looking dot punch background. If you can achieve this consistently, then you're going to have a better overall effect. It does take some practice, but once you get the rhythm, once you get the hang of it, it's going to go pretty quickly, and you're going to be able to do some pretty impressive things with it. The three main background treatments that I use are dot punch, line background, and then of course background removal or relief. Normally when I relieve backgrounds, I also stipple them as well. But I would say the technique that I use the most is dot punch. Generally because I'm doing smaller jobs right now, and people, to be able to spend the amount of time that I would like to on background removal and stippling, I would say it takes at least more than double the time to actually relieve the background as compared to dot punch. A lot more, maybe three times or four times even. There's a lot of work to be done with background removal. So dot punch is a great alternative when you're working with small projects. it's actually my favorite background treatment. You can see how I'm turning the work so that I can get a good view through my microscope of where the dots need to be placed. And I'm attempting to place them next to each other so that they don't necessarily abut, but the circle, the outer circle of the dots just kiss each other. They just touch without overlapping, which is very difficult to do. It's surprisingly tricky to make that happen. But if you can get it where you get the rhythm and you line them up and you stack them, you can get a really cool pattern. So that's the goal. It's fairly simple. This is going to be a short video just to give you an idea of what dot punch background looks like and how quickly it can be achieved. You can see that I've done quite a bit of work in just a little bit of time. So if you're looking for a nice way to finish a project, to add a background to your project, dot punch is a great alternative, a great way to go, and I recommend giving it a shot.